injected new meaning, dignity into the veins of civilization. This is our challenge and our overwhelming responsibility. Great people who injected new
just a sample
meaning, dignity into the veins of civilization. This is our challenge.
All right, fine, we're starting.
Our overwhelming responsibility.
Nobody's here yet, but let's see. And that's only a sample, so let's back this up a little bit. Give me the whole track, please. There we go. All right.
There it is. That's the intro.
All right, very good. All right, well, for my followers here, I'm normally doing like drumming along to whatever or doing improvisational tracks, and I've recently started doing some interviews with some of my friends who are also performers in different ways. The last time was with Corey Riojas, who is a stand-up comedian down here in San Diego. And today we're going to be interviewing Breeze Smith, and he's both a jazz percussionist and drummer and a painter and a writer, originally from Columbus, Ohio, playing various styles of music on drum set and percussion. Performed nationally, internationally, and recorded with various configurations, doing sound bites for films, sound healing performances, and has been visually, he's been commissioned for works in sound sculpture, painting, ink drawing, logos, CD album art, and graphics and that sort of thing. And he currently resides in Los Angeles, and there we go. This is our friend Breeze Smith. Welcome to the show, Breeze.
Greetings.
So, I had the good fortune to meet Breeze via Facebook, just as a fellow percussionist and drummer. Let me see. I want to get rid of this little screen here. And there we go. So we haven't actually met in person, which I hope to remedy that at some point in the fairly near future.
That would be grand.
What are you up to these days?
Well, I'm working with a lot of different projects. The one you're listening to now, that's kind of my larger project I've been working on for the last I think 4 years with Dwight and the ensemble, the sextet. Other preparations. We had our first record release was in September, late September 2020, which that was with a label out of London, and Spirit Muse is the name of the record label. And we were supposed to be on tour, but for obvious reasons, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
So we did do a concert for the record release. It was broadcast and it was put out internationally. So that's been a really good project. It's been very mind expanding and it's taken us all into many different directions. We're just about to get back in the studio next month to start the follow-up to the one that you're listening to right now, Pathways and Passages.
Nice.
But been working with a lot of different trios, and then a lot of painting that I'm doing right now. I haven't been doing as much in the realm of sculpture. I was doing a lot of metal sculpture, but more recently, the paintings have been easier for me to get into, and they just kind of flow through me, which is really interesting. And I mean, it's a spiritual experience.
Well, yeah.
Like, not unlike playing music with other musicians that we feel so connected to. So that's pretty much what's going on right now. I'm going into the studio again this week, Thursday and Friday, with Derek Bombach. He plays guitar, he's a composer, and Tony Green, upright bass player. He also plays electric bass.
Oh, nice.
And so we're doing a trio project. We hope to have.
Now we're looking on screen at a photo that you sent me of a beautiful copper piece that in front of a green background that looks like a percussive instrument.
Oh yes, that's an instrument that I designed and created that came out of a dream that I had. I was commissioned to do a really the largest sculpture that I've done so far, a sound sculpture. And as I was in the last couple of days finishing it up, I had a dream about that instrument. And when I was finishing the sculpture, looking around, I was about to clean up the shop, and I saw parts laying around on the floor, and they looked a lot like the components of that instrument. So I just turned the welder back on, and I started creating the instrument. And interestingly for me is that the instrument sounds very much like it did in the dream. So that's an instrument that works with the transference of sound. So I have rings. There are 8-inch rings on either side of the main tube, and those are meant to be placed upon larger drums.
I see. Okay.
So that the sound can go in through the drums, and it also
wait. Those are 8
tube.
inches. So that's a fairly large piece then.
I use violin bow and a mallet to play that instrument.
So is that
both the Zebra Breeze?
Is that a fairly large piece then?
It's let's see. It's about just under 3.5 feet.
Okay.
In length, and in height, it's about the same, a little bit larger, closer to 4 feet in height.
That is.
With it's all aluminum.
Oh, I see. I looking at it in a smaller picture, it had the appearance of copper, but now I see it as that's clearly aluminum. That's interesting. That is very interesting. We saw. I was able to go to a presentation at UCSD. I'm trying to remember the percussionist's name, but it was a series of made instruments that were incredibly interesting. I think the presentation was called the Schick's Machine, or oh boy, I'll have to look that up. It was a very, very interesting. It was presented like a, somewhat like a play, but also like, there we go. The Paul Drescher Ensemble, Schick Machine.
Oh yeah, okay.
Really, really interesting instruments and just noisemakers, like a huge metal disc with that he would play with, just like a great big. Just a great big like a log, while it was spinning on a very strong motor, or he had all kinds of stuff. And that was a few years ago. I'm struggling to remember all the things, but it was really, really cool stuff.
Nice.
Sorry, not. My friend Cherry That's All is here. She digs the metal sculpture. That is indeed a very cool piece. There we go. All right. Can you tell us, what you mentioned I mean, you did some beautiful writing in you know, to send to me to give me an idea of a lot more of your background, and some of that involved as a child being somewhat of a audio mimic with sounds like wind. Is that, do you feel that was the beginning of what really got you started with percussion, and especially because your playing seems to be very much more in the experimental realm than most might consider. You know, I would call it a lot more colorful and illustrative, like more like a sound sculpture. When you say sound sculpture, I mean you seem to be referring much more to you know, a sculpture that you would make sound with, and I've historically referred to sound sculpture as you know, atonal music, or putting together music that is more of a soundscape than melody or that sort of thing. And I find, you know, a lot of what I've heard you do so far has been very much in the realm of like it would work very well for soundtrack music. It would work, you know, it's very good at setting a mood or painting a picture without doing a specific melody or you know, it's like it's both musical and experimental at the same time. Is that kind of where you got started?
Yeah, well, I mean, as an infant, I can actually remember, before I could talk, I remember lying in the crib and seeing these faces looking down on me, and hearing these sounds, and that sort of began the interest in my imagination of sound itself, because I had no idea that they were actually speaking in a language that would be something that I would, of course, I eventually understood, but
Sure.
my small brain was trying to figure out what were these sounds, and I heard them only as sounds and not as a language. But I knew it was, excuse me, I knew it was some kind of communication, and that was the beginning of listening to the sounds I heard in my imagination. Then, because of the way it is in central Ohio, the very strong winds of different magnitudes and freight trains were also really interesting to me. That the Doppler effect of hearing freight trains, and then of course the percussive side of hearing trains on the track. Yeah. But the wind, that was something that was a very interesting thing for me, because it actually frightened me as a child. And so what I did in my brain is that I decided to meet the challenge, and instead of just staying frightened all the time, I learned how to make the sound of the wind, which I don't know how this will come across audibly, but I can give you an example.
Sure. It is getting a little bit compressed out, but I can hear it a little bit. Yeah.
And later on, as you know, much later on in my life, I found out that what I'm doing is I'm actually doing the same forms with the mouth and the tongue as overtone singing. It's just that I'm not using my vocal cords. I'm just forcing the wind up through my lungs and then out through the mouth, the cavity, to project that sound.
I see.
So it is the same form. I did a workshop with Glenn Velez where he talked about, gave a really good description of overtone singing, and then I found out later that that's exactly what I was doing.
I see.
So those things were a big part of it, but it was, the fascination for me with drum set was the fact that it was so sculptural, and the fact that I could create sounds from this magical sculptural instrument was fascinating for me.
Yeah.
And then later on, especially in these times when we're able to change what would be a conventional setup and add all sorts of things around the drum set, it just continues for me to be a magical sculptural way of playing music.
I see. Yeah, I really, that's one of the things that I definitely wanted to talk to you about is kit construction, because I find the way you set up your kits is, that's one of the things that's kind of drawn me to, communicate with you is seeing your interesting setups and how you're very much. I feel like we're very much kindred in that we like to set it up so that everything is very close and easy to access, and you really seem to have quite a flair for picking unusual sounds and devices, and you're also very much a fan of the wave drum, it would seem. Which is one of my favorite things.
Well, yeah, the ergonomics of our instrument is something that fascinates me, and the way that I like to set up my instruments is I like the cymbals very low so that I can very quickly do all sorts of things, even placing. I have these thin rawhide pieces that I put on the cymbals to get a very different texture, and then I like to put other cymbals. I like to stack cymbals very quickly, one on top of the other, and then to be able to move around the set is really important for me, and it's something that served me well. About 5 years ago, I was playing a gig, and it was a 2-set gig. And on the break, there was a friend of mine that came to me and said that there's someone that wanted to talk with me. And this guy's he's quite an innovator, Tony Manassian. He designs speakers, and his speakers are such high quality that he ended up altering and customizing microphones, because he couldn't find microphones that would really capture what he wanted to put through the speakers. So he came to me and he said, "I'd really like to record you because you're one of the few drummers that has everything down low." And he's such a scientist. This guy was able to use one microphone to record my entire drum set. And that's with all the cymbals, all the drums, even captured the bass drum with one microphone.
Nice.
So, it's just, it's what feels comfortable to me. I know not all drummers are comfortable with that. A lot of drummers like to have the cymbals, especially up higher. But I did some of that, back in the day when I was playing in other types of music.
Sure.
But, the wiser I become, that's as rather than saying older.
Yeah.
But as I go on, I just find that the tighter I can have my setup, the more comfortable I am with that.
Of course. And on that note, I would say a lot of the reason I find most drummers would either put stuff up really high or whatever, it seems to be more for show or for show and to get separation in recording tracks. But I'm partial myself to a whole kit sound where it doesn't sound like it's been meticulously separated into a lot of different things. And
I agree.
If you're setting up everything much more closely, you can treat it much more like a full kit sound and a much more colorful thing. with all the overtones and the you know, I see a lot of people complaining about how can I get my snare to stop vibrating every time I hit the tom, and I'm thinking, well, I love that, you know, that that's, you know, why would you want to get rid of that? It's the snare drum is kind of the heart of most drummers' sounds. So you know, if that's being colored by everything else that you hit, or if everything that you hit is being colored by the sound of that snare, then why would you want to get rid of that? That doesn't really make sense to me. But you know, every situation is different. So.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. And the other thing for me is especially with the Cosmic Vibrations Ensemble, is that one of the stronger aspects of what we do, which is all of our performances is me opening up with looping overtones from cymbals and gongs that are around the drum set. And it's so much easier for me to do that because I do it live. Nothing is pre-recorded. So I have a really beautiful, small, Shure microphone that I can very easily get under and above, so overtones from under and above the cymbals and gongs, and that way I can establish a loop that's how we find the ways of relating together in the ensemble. And
what's the microphone you're using for that?
You know, that's if it was close by, I would grab it, but I'm not sure which one it is. It's a very small Shure mic, and it has a little gooseneck on it. It was a gift from a friend of mine when I was playing a gig, playing Beat 'em Bow, and I was having such a hard time really getting the full richness of the Beat 'em Bow, and I hope everybody knows what a Beat 'em Bow is.
Well, I know some of my followers are fans of Sepultura, which is, you know, some Brazilian metal, and they'll occasionally work that into the program. But I don't think I've ever actually seen somebody play one in a more traditional fashion.
Well,
at least never in person.
Both. I mean, which is a lot of how I play anyway. I mean, I respect all of that. The way I play Doombeck and a lot of other instruments that have deeply rooted techniques, but I don't always play that way because, as you were saying, I'm more of a soundscape artist, and I'm what I call I'm a floater. I like to float within rhythms, and I like to play over the bar. But anyway, my point about this microphone is that my friend gifted me with this mic because it could very easily be attached to the Beat 'em Bow. But what I found is that it's perfect for the other application that I was telling you about with the looping.
Yeah. So what are you? So you're doing actual looping where you're? Are you using?
Yeah, it's a really antiquated system. I use it's an old Digitech. It's a Digitech 8, I think it's called.
Yeah.
Like rack mount.
Oh, okay. All right.
And I start from there, and then I connect that over to the Line 6, the Green Monster, I call it. And, and so I start the loop in the Digitech, and then after I'm satisfied with what I have going on, then I put it into the Line 6, which, of course, right away I can add things to the original loop that's going in. And I can just manipulate so many sounds with those two combinations.
Yeah.
They're really part of what is my personality from the drum percussion.
You're not really afraid to mix digital and analog then?
No,
Yeah.
not at all.
I see there's a lot of people that have those kinds of hang-ups.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
I mean, I'm like in this setup, I'm fully digital, of course, but you know, I've got a lot of acoustic drums and acoustic sounds and you know, metal pieces that can be played in different ways, and I've started to experiment a bit with changing, adding things to some of those metal pieces, or like I have what I call the piano remnant, which is we found a piano behind a community theater because they were moving to their next just a few blocks away, but they had taken the piano that had been in this theater building and just pushed it out into the alley, and it was there for weeks and weeks. And as it was there was a little restaurant across the alleyway from it that my wife and I used to go to all the time. And we saw this piano out there, and it's like, oh, well, that's interesting, you know, just piano by the dumpster. And then the next week we were there, and it was all the keys had been stolen from it. So, you know, and pieces were starting to be taken off of it. And after, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks, we went there. And finally, all that was left was the soundboard, you know, the strings and the harp and the big chunky piece of wood at the bottom. It was an upright, you know. And it was apparent that somebody had tried to take it. Like somebody had tried, because it moved a couple of times over the next few weeks, but it never left the property. Well, the thing's like, I swear it's 400 pounds, you know.
Oh yeah, easily.
So it took me several weeks to get somebody to go over there with me with my work truck and help me load that thing into the truck and get it back to the house. But I brought it back to the house, and all it is you know, the really substantial you know, piece of wood at the bottom, and then the frame with the very thin you know, ply underneath the harp portion, and the you know, it's very rusty and very beat up. The bridges on it are like kind of weathered and disintegrating, but it has so many different sounds that you can get out of it. I mean, you can play it plucking it. You can you know, play it with mallets. You can play the wood parts of it. I've used it for I've taken some of my large diaphragm microphones, and when I've had in my old place, I had my acoustic kit set up all the time. It was always ready to go and record.
And
me too. For quite some time, I had the piano remnant standing right next to the kit, basically. And if you put a nice large diaphragm microphone on the other side of it, every time you hit the kick drum or the snare drum or a tom, you were hearing just just that just natural reverb there. And it was like that's, you know, I used that for a natural reverb track. But yeah, and I've used it for making like soundscapey kind of spooky and ethereal sounds, and I had a friend come over and we improvised some stuff where I was milling about on the kit, and he was playing around with the piano remnant and with some of my bells, and he took one of my larger bells, and the handle portion of it, he was rubbing it on the strings in little circles, and it made just the most ethereal sound. Really, really cool. But anyway,
I've done some of that as well. And in fact, I had a similar situation. And it was many years ago. Must have been in the 70s. Went to a session, and I wasn't even scheduled to be on the session. But there was the same thing you're talking about. Was just there. It was like in the room, and somebody said, "Hey, well, you're a percussionist. Why don't you do something with that?" And so I ended up doing the same things what you're talking about. And then I had a really rare occasion, or a friend of mine. I did a duo session with him, and he had a beautiful Steinway, and he told me, he said, just go ahead, just, you know, dive in there, and to a Steinway. And I was like, I mean, I was apprehensive at first, but you know, I mean, I didn't like bash it, but
no, it
was wonderful to be able to get in there and place things on the strings, and Yeah,
one of my
stuff, man.
One of my viewers is saying Cyber Rider 17 suggests the circular saw blades if you have them in your shed. And I do. I have one great big one. It's huge. The thing is, I want to say it's like an 18-inch blade, and I rescued it from a dumpster specifically because of the tone that it had. So we've got that, and I've got a collection of old pool filter tanks, so stainless steel of several different sizes. There's some of them look like torpedoes, and others look like great big cauldrons. And I'd really like, I need to get some proper cutter or find somebody nearby that's got a really good metal cutter so that I can, I want to turn one or two of those large ones into tongue drums because they really, I really want to do that.
The metal tongue drums, those are just exquisite. I love those.
Yeah.
How about this? Have you ever tried the internal chime of a grandfather clock?
No, but I did disassemble an old phone that somebody threw away, and I kept the little bells out of that. But I would love. I collect bells and chimes, and
so do I.
So I love stuff like that. I'm always going into thrift stores and just looking for bells or little toy xylophones and all that stuff. I love it.
My wife and I used to go to Cost Plus and the old Pier 1. And they would have the discount bins, and she would walk away. She said, "Okay, you do your thing. I'm going to go over here. I don't want to really be with you when you're doing all that stuff." Because I was always
making
trying
a bit of
different
noise.
things that they had for added percussion.
Oh man!
But the grandfather clock chimes, it's really amazing because it's always connected to a beautiful piece of first cast iron, and then it's attached to usually a really beautiful hardwood. You can find them on eBay for like sometimes $40.
Yeah.
And you place that on your floor tom, and yes, you can strike the chimes themselves. But even if you just like move the base of that where it's attached to the chimes, it resonates again. It's a transference. It resonates through the floor tom. It's a really wonderful thing to add for ethereal sounds.
Oh, I bet. Man.
But you the one thing that we should talk about is the fact that you're one of the few people that uses the wave drum.
Oh, I love this thing.
So do I.
I probably got turned on to it because of Tool originally, but where I really got sold on it was at the NAMM show. I was walking along, and I saw one of these set up at the Korg booth, and I just put on the headphones and started playing with it, and I was like, oh my god, this thing's amazing.
Yeah.
I really want one of these. Yeah.
With mine is I used because I was playing a gig, and a friend of mine was in the back of the venue, and he said, the wave drum is cool, but he said, I can hear your sticks hitting the head of the wave drum. And he said, it's kind of a shame, I would like to hear the sound of what it is. And so I found Pearl makes a mesh head that is the same size as the head that's on the wave drum, which that's the beauty of that drum too, is just a real drum head on there.
Yeah.
And adding the mesh head, I'm able to do so much more without getting the attack of a stick or a mallet onto the head. And because of the mesh, when I have it on full sensitivity, I can actually use my fingernails across the top of that mesh, and it brings out sounds that I wasn't able to achieve without the mesh head.
Nice. Which model do you have? I think you've got a later model than the one that I have. I've got the regular silver one. It's not
the silver one. That's the one I have.
Okay. Maybe yours just looks different because you've got the mesh head on it.
Yeah. and now I'm putting it through a harmonizer, and then I have just a very simple delay that I'm using with that as well. But the harmonizer has just opened up a whole new. It's going into a whole different place because of being able to have the harmonizer, all the different patches.
I've got one of my followers here on the channel is he used to work for Korg, and he was one of the he would do demos for it at trade shows and that sort of thing. He actually sent me, he rewrote, because I told him I was struggling with the programming of it. I'm still terrible at the programming of it, but I've got a manual that he personally wrote that is just breaks down the programming supposedly a little bit easier.
That's cool.
I could actually send that to you if you'd like.
Oh yeah, I'd love to check that out.
Another one of my friends here on Twitch, Benevolent Dick, is he's recently in the last year he got a wave drum, and he's already dove much further into the settings because of getting that same manual. So yeah, I'll send that to you after we're done here.
Okay. When I bought my wave drum used, and when it arrived, there were already, of course, there were already the 100 sounds in there. But this person had done some customizing, so I had like 2 different banks.
Nice.
So I have a whole different customized section that's different than the standard stock 100.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I've just mainly been using presets, but I'll set them in groups of 4 for specific gigs.
Oh yeah, right.
It's That's really cool. It's an indispensable tool for. I mean, when I'm doing dance music, I use the hell out of this thing. I mean, from 80s tom sounds, congas, timbales, hand clap sounds. I even used the shotgun sound on it for. We were doing Jump Around from. Oh my God.
Well, do you know? Yeah. Do you know patch number 22?
Well, mine's on 23 right now. That's what I was using last night.
You put it on 22.
Yeah.
And then when you're at full sensitivity, and if you press in the center and just hold on there long enough, you'll hear something that I had no idea was in there. And so I found a lot of the patches have these other components that you just have to have the patience to allow them to become what they are.
Okay, so that's the patch you're talking about?
Yeah, you have to press and hold.
All right. Yeah.
There it is.
I never knew that was on there. Wow. Yeah, I had no idea that was there. That's awesome. That's one of the patches that I haven't used very much, but I will actually use that. I mean, there's a lot of instances.
As you're holding down, and if you take your knuckles and strike the rim, it will do some other activating. You know how that works.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, I mean, you can literally get lost on these.
Oh, I know.
On these things.
I've spent hours.
Have you seen last few years at NAMM, the ATV had a frame drum, an electronic frame drum that they came out with that had the brain. It looks like the construction looks like a 70s style lighting fixture that you would find, fluorescent bulbs underneath, and it's in the shape of a Superman emblem with a wood rim all the way around, and the inside just looks like those old Ripley light covers, that would go in. So it looks like a lighting fixture, but on the inside of it, it's got the brain for the unit is in there. and it's basically a drum synth. And
Nice.
it's one of the most sensitive things that I've ever picked up and played. But they want like $3,000 for it, so it's like out of my. Yeah. I would love to do that, but you can get a whole drum set for $3,000. I mean, I got.
Yeah. Well, there's a new company that I just discovered through a percussionist from Poland, and it's a company out of Sweden, and they're making these just the most incredible compact udus that I've ever seen. That's another instrument that I love is udus, and this thing has a built-in pickup. And it's like it's about 12 inches in diameter and maybe about 3 inches thick.
Wow.
It is absolutely amazing. And they have another drum that simulates a tongue drum, also with a built-in pickup. And wow. If I had an extra $1,000, I would get both of those instruments to add to my setup. But you want to sell a couple more paintings.
Yeah. We need to talk about your painting as well. That's we can get to that whenever. We can get to it now, or we can get to it later. Yeah, Cherry, the wave drum would be absolutely awesome for your kid, I'm sure. I mean, I think any kid would get lost in this. I've had children over here before for like holidays, and of course I'll take them into the drum room and go, okay, don't hit this little part right here, and don't hit that little part. No, don't hit the microphone. You hit this over here, and they just love it. But stuff like the wave drum, when you start getting into all the weird sounds that it makes and the different ways that it can be played, kids would just go ape on that thing. They are a little pricey, but you can find them, more reasonably priced used. But I think I paid around $400 for mine, and that was like 10 years ago. I would love to have two more, honestly. I've seen performances of a Japanese woman that had 3 of them laid out, and what she was doing with just 3 wave drums was man, I could just watch that all day. The other 2, there's the blue one and the red one that have additional sounds, and I know Pat Mastelado uses blue one a lot. He's one of my favorites too. Again, an unorthodox player, unorthodox setups, loves to use.
Oh, there's the piano bow right there.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, this is really cool. This is, again, where the background here, we're listening to Cosmic Vibrations featuring Dwight Tribble. This is Pathways and Passages. You can find it on Bandcamp. I should actually put the link in there, huh?
And we're 3 percussionists together.
Oh, man. That's another thing. I've not had a great opportunity to play with more of a percussive centric thing. I mean, usually if there's any percussion going on in the gig, it's something that I'm adding extra to what's going on. But I with the dance band, we do periodically have a percussionist come play with us. Monette Marino comes in, and she's smoking on congas and hand drums in general, and timbali. She really kills that. She says she's not very good at timbali, but she sounds amazing. And getting the chance to have that back and forth is really a blast for me. But I haven't gotten a chance to really.
And that's the magic of that sextet. For me, is Durf Reclaw is playing congas, bongos, and African percussion. And then Christopher Garcia is playing all kinds of exotic percussion, tabla, Mesoamerican percussion, gongs, and just kanjira. It's really magical.
Yeah, man. There's so many different ways that music can be approached. I mean, that's one of the things that's really drawn me to music. the most is the variety and the constant learning. When do you remember when was the like the first time that you actually saw somebody else playing, and how that made you feel? Like I remember the first time I ever saw somebody play a drum set standing right in front of it. I remember my it felt like my heart went into my stomach. Like I was just absolutely blown away by these sounds being made in front of me. And I already wanted to be a drummer at that point, but seeing it and hearing it up close was like instant adrenaline.
Yeah. Well, for me, it was not anything. It wasn't anything live. It was on the old black and white television. It was the Mouseketeers, the Mickey Mouse Club, and there was one of the kids on that show, Cubby, who played drum set. And the thing that hit me was, well, hey, that kid's about the same age as I am.
Yeah. I
should be able to do that. And that was like more of the magic, just to see like that's a possibility. And of course, as time went on, and then, like I agree with you, like hearing certain drummers like up close and personal. I remember the first time I heard Tony Williams was in Boston. My brother was going to Berkeley in Boston at the time, and we went into this tiny little club, and I was sitting like less than 30 feet away from Tony.
Oh wow!
Yeah, that just was mind-boggling.
I can only imagine. I've I never got to see him.
And that was before he used the large setup, so it was like it was a basic kit. It was not. He wasn't playing like the large sets
the big yellow.
He did later. The beautiful yellow Gretsch with what was it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 toms, I think.
With the black dots all around.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, his cymbal work is just beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's I'm very, very unrefined in jazz playing. Like I'm not a jazz player at all. There are little elements that sneak in, but my background is it started with metal, and then my first working gig was country and rock, and so I was very much just metal, and then country and rock because it was it was making me money, and it wasn't until much later that I started discovering other music and feeling excited about discovering other music instead of feeling like you had to be a tough guy listening to metal. I'm very much a metalhead still. I love heavy and obnoxious music, but I also I really dramatically broadened my horizons as soon as I started discovering bands like King Crimson and Primus, even though that was, very, very metal based, and heavily influenced by King Crimson. A lot of my influences go straight back to Bill Bruford is one of my favorites. And
yeah, me too.
But me too. I mean, I'm just not jazzy at all. And I'm constantly discovering jazz music that I should have known already, and just going, how did I not know about this? And I have a bit of regret of not diving into that, like when I was a kid, like taking lessons instead of being the stubborn, no, I'm going to learn on my own, that kind of thing. Did you, I'm imagining, did you take lessons when you were a kid, or did you just dive in?
Well, I mean, first, it was. I had to convince my father that I was serious, because he wanted me to play violin, and I was just not having that at all. I kind of wish that I'd stayed with some of that, but I mean, my love was for drums, and so I rented an old Kent snare drum, and was taking lessons from this guy. Oh, and his name was Fred Gump, heavy chain smoker, and I would show up for lessons, and he wasn't really excited about this little kid coming in wanting to play drums.
Yeah.
So he would be like, he'd light up another cigarette and he'd say, "Okay, ready from the top, begin."
Wow.
But I convinced my father that I was serious, and that's when he was able to get this beautiful set of early 1960s round bed Gretsch champagne sparkles, and bought the set with some beautiful old cymbals. One of the cymbals I wish that I still had, but try not to have too many regrets about equipment. But anyway, I didn't stay too long with the lessons because the drum set just came so naturally for me, and I was playing in a band like within 6 months of getting a drum set.
Yeah.
So I left the lessons alone, and I sort of regret that, but I learned along the way. And at that time, I was playing a lot of rock and like R&B and soul stuff, and then I got into like playing the blues bands, and then finally into like the trio stuff, the blues rock stuff, like the ZZ Top things, that kind of thing. And that's probably the heaviest stuff that I did was in that arena. But later on, I decided to go back and find a teacher, and it was bittersweet because this guy said, "Man," he says, "we need to start from the beginning," because he had me play a little bit, and I was a little bit nervous because I knew he was a jazz cat. So that didn't last very long. I went on and said, "Okay, let me just find my way." And so I wasn't really getting a lot. I wasn't feeding myself with teachers that much.
Yeah.
And it was more about watching, listening, and experimenting. But that's one of the things that I find to be so beautiful today is the access we have to so many great musicians that we can listen to and hear them talk about how they do what they do. Like, we mentioned Tony Williams, and when somebody finally talked about that 5-stroke that he does on his ride cymbal, that's an amazing thing to do. I don't feel like that I'm comfortable enough to do that on the fly. But that 5-stroke on the ride cymbal is so beautiful, where you can accent the 1 or the 5 of the 5-stroke on it. The beautiful way to play ride cymbal for jazz. And it doesn't have to be jazz. You could use that in other contexts as well, especially metal. I mean, you could definitely use that 5-stroke. And have you experimented with that?
Not so much. I mean, I don't really get much chance to work on metal stuff. I've really only been able to start focusing on that again since I began streaming, because when doing the stream, I'm able to do whatever I want. Whereas all the gigs that I get are either the corporate dance band kind of thing, or blues stuff, or blues rock, or classic rock, or rock, or I've done country bands. I mean, but it seems like I can find work in just about anything but metal, but I love metal, So and I recently upgraded my pedal situation here, so I'm starting to work in earnest on the feet again, and I really do like taking aspects from other kinds of music and injecting it into those kinds of feels. Like, instead of having just straight double kick going all the time, I like to break it up into patterns that still maintain that thing, but there's notes that are omitted, so that you're not stepping on that. That's actually a Meshuggah thing. Is there's a lot of there's a lot of Meshuggah parts where Thomas Hawk is not hitting the snare and the kick at the same time. Very much in the kind of Charlie Watts kind of thing, where he doesn't want them stepping on each other. And even though the part sounds like the kick is just going straight through all the time, he's actually omitting the note when he's hitting the snare, and it sounds just seamless. I mean, he's got it solid, but I mean, there's a lot of thought that's put into it, and doing different ride patterns where you're, instead of just just a straight just a straight line, doing, mixing in some dotted eighths and some some little triples and off notes and all that. I mean, that makes it so much more interesting. But I'm seeing.
Yeah, I used to. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm seeing a lot of metal drummers that are really doing that now with the what we used to call extreme drumming is now just normal metal drumming. And that's been one of the things that's inspired me to start working on the feet again. Is I want to get to that point where I'm able to do blast beating and all that, even though it's something I'm not going to be using all the time. It's number one, it's exhilarating for me to listen to.
Yeah.
Little bits when I'm able to do it, it's exhilarating to play, and it just feels good, and it gets my heart rate up, and it's all good. But yeah.
Yeah. I used to play double pedal, double pedals.
Yeah.
And recently, because of number one would be Benny Greb.
Yeah, he's
and then the other one is Mangini, Mike Mangini.
Yeah.
And those two guys, they sparked my interest about getting back at double pedals so strongly that now I have Sonar double pedals, and I also have some old DW 7000 double pedals. I want to get back into that because it's just, you're right. I mean, you can just do such beautiful accents with the having that extra left foot in there.
It really it opens up a lot, and again, it's I've pointed this out with your setup and with the fact that you like to use electronic elements when you're doing such an organic thing with real pieces. You're still not afraid to use stuff like the wave drum or running what you've got through harmonizers and all that. You're not. Where was I going with that? You've got a much more open mind. Well, I lost where I was going. I got to thinking about the other aspects of what was leading me there, and sorry about that. Damn it! Well, we were talking double kick parts.
Well, I wanted to go back on your Bill Bruford, because he's also someone that just, I mean, the first Yes album was like, that was mind-blowing to me.
Yeah.
The way that he approached what he was doing, and once again to see like a pretty simple drum set that he played, man, the way he played it with that music was that was incredible. And I love that sound. It's something that even to this day, that's a lot of how I when I'm striking the snare. Oftentimes it's a lot like the way he has always done, where it's like you're in almost the right about the 9 o'clock position with your left hand, and you get that amazing that boing, I love that.
Yeah, I love that. I've always loved his snare tone, and when you were talking about him, I'm imagining just watching him and his that just such relaxed form that he's got with the strokes has always been just so satisfying for me to watch. When he's hitting one note in something, it's so precise and so relaxed at the same time. Just great control.
And talk about somebody who is innovative and open-minded.
Yeah.
When he switched and put the hi-hat like directly above the snare.
Yeah.
And then spread out the tom.
Yeah,
left
the
and
flat
right.
setup. Yeah.
I thought that was incredible. What a great idea. I haven't tried to do that yet, but I still think that's a great way to see, again, someone who is innovative and not afraid to stretch out.
Well, I mean, we are afforded such a luxury of being able to just set up our instruments however we see fit. I mean, guitarists have pedals, and everybody's got things that they can add after the fact or use to color what they're playing, but drummers get to say, no, I do it a completely different way. I mean, like who's the there's a drummer I've seen a lot of articles about him lately, but all of his drums are facing away from him, like leaning down.
I've seen that.
And it's so, I mean, his stroke has got to be like, almost full down like that, and then the cymbals are even pointing out, and it's very odd, but the guy's getting a ton of work, and he's obviously a player. But I mean, we're allowed to do whatever we want. I mean, I come in to my setup all the time and just sit here and look at it and go, what can I change next? Like it's instead of always going, no, this is how my set is and this is how it always has to be. I really like to have it. I like to change things up. Like I had the wave drum was over here for a while on to the left of the hats. And I was really enjoying that. I still use it there for like the dance band gig, and because it's not like the primary, but it's there's so much that I do with it in there that that it's got to be there. And and there's been a few times where I've put it over here to my right and really enjoyed what it makes me do over there. Every time you move it to a different place, it makes you play it differently. Like sometimes I'll put the ride really low, sometimes I'll put it up a little higher, and I just really love mixing it up, and it's
me too.
I would say it would be like your guitarist going, okay, well now I'm going to put the high E in the middle, and low E is going to be the bottom string, and then just change where all the strings are, and that's how you're going to play it tonight. Make it sound exactly like you've been doing, though. Yeah. Oh, we've got. Talamir, welcome. I'm sorry you can't see the chat in here. We do have there is some chat going on, and they've been rather passive so far. But Talamir, and Cherry are here, and there's a couple of other people, but it's.
Would you mind to switch over to another music that I sent you?
Oh yeah. What would you like?
Link?
Yeah.
Like the one, the one with Paracas and Zuck. That's because I'd like to talk to you about that. Right. I'd like to ask you if you've done anything like this, because it's two bass players and myself.
All right. There we go.
And especially that you're talking about Primus, because John Zuck, he's definitely like a cross between Les Claypool and Flea, and I don't know who else.
All right, I'm definitely down.
And then Paracas plays like a 12-string bass upright and some other crazy things.
All right, let me refresh this real quick because there we go. All right.
Have you done anything like that with two bass players, just a trio like that?
No, I would love to. I actually there's a couple of I've watched. Come on, no, go back. There's a few bands out there that are just like two-piece, like bass player and a drummer, or single guitarist and a drummer. And I've always been very partial. I've always been very partial to dedicating time and energy to improvisation. And when you're dealing with a smaller ensemble, or if you're dealing with just two people, it's much easier to do improv than to find, the full, to find that full chemistry in like a 5-piece is more difficult than a 2-piece.
Yeah.
This is really good. I would love to do something like that, though.
Oh man, those guys are crazy too. We had so much fun doing that recording. It was just, man, it was magical.
Yeah. I wrote a song by myself several years ago. It's got 2 bass lines in it. It's nothing like this, but it's I just had one bass line and then like a lead bass line over the top of it. It's not like I'm not a smoking bass player, but I was able to write. This is
nice.
Really cool. See, now all these sounds that you're using in here are like right up my alley. I love those short, sharp tones, the very white noise kind of sounds, and.
Well, you know what that is? That's a let's see, it's a 10-inch wave drum.
Oh wow!
And I put that. I either put that like I cross it over on my snare and my floor tom, or I actually place it directly on the 10-inch tom. And it's on the 10-inch tom. It's really muted, but it still like activates the ball bearings inside there. But when it's across the snare and the floor tom, it just gets this really, that's the sound that's in there right now.
Oh, Wave Drummer just showed up in the chat. So he was who I was telling you about that. Yeah. Hey. So Wave Drummer, we're talking to Breeze Smith, who is also very much a user of the Wave Drum. I'm going to send him your manual that you wrote. Yeah. And we're listening to some stuff that he did with, this is Para Breeze Zuck. And this is, I'm going to put up the links for this for Bandcamp. I've got I've got 3 different control surfaces working here, and I'm like, all right, wait, which one do I use for which? Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna have to text one to myself. That's funny. How bizarre. Yeah. So Wave Drummer says, "Nice, howdy, Breeze."
Hey.
He's all the way over. You're in Connecticut, is that correct, Wave Drummer? And Breeze is in Los Angeles, and I'm down here in the Inland Empire. Yeah, I do have to text it to myself. You are absolutely correct, Jerry. Yes, Connecticut. He's over where I got my one and only custom snare drum was made over there by Joe Montanari.
Ooh.
That was the first time I've ever gotten to pick materials, pick the size, pick the finish, decide, what kind of hardware, and yeah. Man. Yeah, I'm fancy with a custom snare.
Wow, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent.
Fun stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Well, while we're talking, I'll work on the on getting links over to the correct device. Let's see. Oh, that's right.
Yeah, the other group that I've been working with that I really have had so much fun with is Metrolotic, and that's a trio with let's see, Tony Green is on electric and upright, and then Eric Barber is playing all kinds of horns, and he's using these funky little like $50 little synthesizers and transistor radios, and the whole thing about that band is that we do our best to play 3 different time signatures at the same time, and eventually we end up at the same place, but it's just such a magical trio that so it's one of the most experimental things that I think I've done in a long time.
Yeah, I love that. And that was which one again?
That's the band is called Metrolotic.
Oh yes. Which I was listening to that before we started up the stream, but I was on a what sounded like a much more ethereal track.
Yeah, but that band just it just keeps changing, and that particular Bandcamp that's some of our earlier stuff from probably a year ago, but it just keeps evolving. It's just so much fun too.
I love that. I love when an artist continues to develop something rather than say, okay, this is what we do. Mm-hmm. And then sticking with that, which there's something to be said for that. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Meshuggah, and if at first listen you'd probably think, okay, this pretty much all sounds the same, but they just keep honing and honing and honing and getting further with what they're doing with that sound.
Yeah.
So rather than that seems specifically different to me than just, you know, saying, okay, this is our sound and we're just going to rest on crapping out songs that sound just like this, you know.
Yeah, right.
Now let's see. Yeah, this is great stuff. Yeah, I would love to do something like that. For a while, I was trying to, you know, round somebody up using social media to get something like this together, where you know, I wanted a high focus on improvisation, and you know, just kind of free exploration. But it can be hard. It can be difficult just to get people together, even when they want to do these things, you know.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
And that's also been. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just going to say that I have another thing that I like, the configuration that I like to do with the two bass players out here. We just haven't been able to get it together. Both guys are very open to it, but
yeah,
you know, it's not easy, especially in these times.
Yeah. And that's one thing I will say about these times is it's led me to doing this thing, the Twitch stream, which has been just a lifesaver. I mean, you know, losing all of our gigs in the first 6 months of the pandemic, I was battling depression really bad, you know, and I'm still fighting it. Everybody I know right now is battling depression in one way or another. But this became an outlet and a way to get that direct audience participation. Even though I can't see the smiling faces, I'm seeing what my new friends are writing in the chat while we're going, and they'll, you know, while I'm playing some song that I've never even heard before, or playing with some song that I've never heard before. I can't say that I'm playing it if I'm not doing it the same way, but playing with is a different story altogether. But seeing how people react to that and how excited people get from, you know, they'll throw some song at me and I'll be like, I don't know it, but here we go, and just the reaction from that is wonderful, and I'm learning something every freaking time we do this.
That's
and
fantastic.
Finding so much music. I have added so much music to my collection in the last year and a half, just from what people have recommended for me. It's exploded my collection and given me so much more to absorb and learn from. And a lot of that has been jazz stuff that I'm like, or a lot of fusion. I get people send me a lot of fusion, and I'm getting exposed to music that I'm like, I knew I would love it. Like Porcupine Tree is a great example. You know,
man,
Gavin Harrison stuff.
Yeah.
I bought a Porcupine Tree album years ago, like I want to say in the early 2000s, and at the time I was looking for heavier stuff, but I knew, you know, I had read a little bit about Gavin and knew I needed to check that out, so I bought the CD, and it wasn't quite very heavy. It wasn't what I was in the mood for at the time, so I listened to it a few times and went, you know, I'm gonna pick some grindcore death metal or something. So it just kind of got put on the side, and I never really went and checked it out, and it was always on the periphery. Like I could always see, you know I should check that out because that guy is obviously really good, and I really like what he does.
Oh yeah.
And then I saw him with King Crimson in 2015.
Oh yeah, right.
And you know, that was a great performance. They started the performance with my favorite King Crimson song ever, which is Lark's Tongues Part 1.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I mean, I literally had to fight tears when they started that one. They started the whole show with that. So I really just had never checked him out, other than what he did with King Crimson and a little bit of what he had done with Porcupine Tree, and then got on this stream and started just going, all right, I'll take requests. You know, what do you want to throw at me? And people started throwing. Pretty much, one of my followers has given me almost I think we've worked through the entire catalog at this point, and of course I'm going very haphazard at it. I'm just trying to listen and follow and play along, and if I can't quite get it, then I try and fill in between and you know, still play with it but not shit all over it, you know. Man,
he's Gavin is amazing. I mean, and the way that he plays, like you know, his approach to playing a 7 or a 9 and things like that. He's amazing. He's really just such a wonderful.
It's so nice and musical and textural and very relaxed sounding. It's everything that he plays sounds so natural, even when it's an unnatural pattern. I'm just constantly impressed with what I hear him do. Yeah.
But you know, when you talk about influences, and I have to say that I remember when I was living in Copenhagen for most of the 1980s, and my son came and he was living with me for a while, and at that time there was a concert that he wanted to go to, and it was Anthrax.
Yeah.
And Charlie Benanti, I think is his name.
Yep. That was my first concert. Was Anthrax and Kiss, actually.
Well, when I went to that concert, that blew my mind.
Yeah.
To hear him, to hear Charlie, the way that he approached the set was just like, wow. I was so grateful for my son to have that interest, because I'm on my own, I wouldn't have gone. And
yeah.
I think at that time I also went to hear Motorhead and I forget some other metal bands at that time, and it was great. I love to have my mind blown by things that I wouldn't normally go for.
Yeah.
Great thing.
I love unexpected surprises, man. Well, that's the definition of surprise. So
that's what I love about painting.
Oh yes. Well, this would be a good segue into talking about your painting,
because I mean, I do meditate, but that's not something I do prior to doing visual artwork. But it happens. It's like I go to these places where it's like I just step out of the way. It's like this thing is in my hand, or here's another medium that's close by, and it just like, okay, let's try this. So it's improvising is just as much what I love to do with my visual arts as in music.
Yeah. Well, we're looking at one of the panels you sent. It's three panels on a wood panel background. Very pretty.
Oh yeah, those are in Brooklyn right now. Those paintings went off to there not long ago. I wish that I had found a method of framing them, which I just found recently, and now I'm framing all the canvases in these what they call floating frames, which fits in with the way that I like to play music. Is more from a floating perspective. And a lot of bass players don't like that. I don't know if you've experienced that. But
well, in most of what I'm doing, it's very directed. Like, somebody involved is going, okay, this is how we want it. So that's how we end up doing it. I mean, of course, there are situations where they're like, hey, we like what you do, so I just want you to do your thing, Yeah, and if there's something that we want to change, then we'll talk about it, and yeah. So I love those situations, but I've really learned to work well within the situations where it is much more directed, because I won't work, So
sure.
But
have you been in this situation where this happened to me recently, where I was asked to do a session? They gave me the music. And so I showed up for a rehearsal, and they said, we want you because of what you do, the way you play.
Yeah.
And so I did that, and there was one particular piece that I was playing that was in 6/8. And when I play 6/8, I love to put like backbeats and do a lot of syncopation within a 6/8. Sorry, it wasn't a 6/8, it was a 12/8. And I remember the guy who hired me, he said, man, he says, not in the backbeats, you know, it's like, no, I don't like that. And it's like, okay, well, then maybe you hired the wrong guy.
Yeah. I had a situation where I had done. There was a keyboardist that he would write songs, and he wanted to sell them, you know, to other artists, right? So he would write songs, and we would go in and record them, and you know, he was with the intent of shopping them around, and I did like 4 or 5 tracks with him, where every time he was just like, he gave me a demo with a crappy drum machine on it, and asked me to do my thing. And so I would just go in and play it how I would play it. And he would, every time he was just, oh, I love that. It's perfect. What you did there was perfect. And this was awesome. And that was awesome. And you know, I would even add things that he hadn't thought of. And, you know, he just loved it. And so he kept coming back to me. And at one point he brought me 2 or 3 songs for a session, and you know, no prefacing or anything. He just gave me these songs, and I studied them and came back the day of the session, and he wanted to he wanted to just run through them in a room before we went to the recording stage. Yeah. And we start playing them, and one of them was a bit of a ballad. And he became infuriated that I hadn't learned it note for note. He wanted it exactly, note for note, how he had programmed on the drum machine. When every other track, including the other tracks in that session, he was like, no, you do your thing on those. So, I mean, we had like a bit of a blowout about, are you freaking serious? You didn't even say anything. And now it's like, so I had to, sit there and chart out the entire song so I could sight read, and I'm not a sight reader, So I basically had to chart the whole song and then go in and play it, reading, and I nailed the track, and he was stoked at the end of it, but after that I was like, I'm not working with that guy again. No. I just didn't want anything to do with him. It just wasn't worth the headache. I mean, what would have been a 4 or 5 hour session ended up being a 12-hour day, and
oh man, yeah.
And just the stress of the back and forth, and I was like, dude, come on, and yeah. And it was music that I wasn't excited about, and it's like that was around the time that I was kind of deciding, okay, am I going to just take any gig that I can get just because it's a paying gig, or am I going to start narrowing it down to like, I do want to do this, I don't want to do that, I really want to do this, I really don't want to do that. So I started to get a lot more discerning in what projects I would take, and that was part of why.
That's a beautiful thing, though. I mean, yeah. It's so wonderful. In fact, that particular situation I was telling you about, I've known this composer for a while. We've always done improvised music, and I had it was like when they were going to do 3 rehearsals and then 2 days of recording. And after the first rehearsal, and then text going back and forth, and that whole aspect of like, hey, forget the backbeat on a 12/8, and I thought about it for a day, and I was like, you know what, this is not me. And so I had to let him know. I said, man, I love what you do, I love what we've done, but you got the wrong guy. And I said, you may not want to work with me again. And he came back to me and he said, you know what, it's not a problem at all. And he said, I appreciate you like stepping up and really realizing what you do want to do, what you don't want to do.
Yeah.
And, I could have done it, but it wouldn't be me. And I think there's a beauty of that, of like just fully living who we are as a musician and as an artist, and saying, I know that there are probably 50 other musicians that do this exactly the way that person wants it,
Yeah.
but it's not me. And I think that's beautiful. You have that. It's like it's owning who you are.
Yeah. Yeah, and my friend Cherry says being honest if your heart is not in it is more important. You know it won't do the music justice. That's also an aspect of it. And here's another thing. I mean, while we were talking about this, I was reminded of something that I saw recently that was just along the lines of, look, you know, if somebody tells you that something is bothering them about you or what your interaction is, they're not saying fuck you. They're saying, here's the parameters. You know, I want to I want to work with you, but it's got to be, you know, there's conditions. That doesn't mean you suck. I don't want to work with you. It's like, here, you know, this is how this will work for me. And giving somebody that information is also partly a way of telling them, hey, I do want to work with you. You know, but I particularly have a very good skill of reading negative where maybe it shouldn't be. So, you know, and I'm trying to break myself of that, but you know, it's a learning process. I've been accused by my friend Carl of positive reframing a lot, and I try to do that as much as possible. Like if something's not working out or something's not what I expected it to be, then I do try to do, you know, try to look at the positive spin of it. But you know, some things can be overwhelming, like pandemic. But yeah. I still found a bright point in the pandemic. So you know, yeah. Yeah, you do have to openly express what you're feeling about really any situation.
Yeah, and you know, I had another experience recently, which is another trio that I'm working with, and it was a friend of mine that I've done a lot with him in the past. He plays electric 5-string violin, a lot of effects, and he wanted to get together with me with an upright player of his that he'd been working with, and we got together, and they came to my place, and it was the first time that I can remember that the music was so quiet that it was it created such a challenge for me in the approach to my instrument that I thought, wow, okay, this is just not going to happen. I didn't say that when we were in the session, but when it was over, I had a conversation with my brother, and I told him about what happened, and he said, oh man, he said, if I had a chance like that, I would jump on it. Yeah. And I thought about it again for another couple of days, and then they asked me about doing another session, and it was probably one of the most magical things that has happened to me in the last 6 months. Wow. Because these guys are, I have to say that they're kind of in the ECM, if I can just say it that way, the ECM kind of vibe of playing.
All right.
But it's also very experimental and just soundscapes that are just evolving. And it just opened up a whole other side to me, that to be able to play much more quietly than I normally would do. We still develop the dynamics, but it's something I'm really grateful for, to have this opportunity to work with.
It really
with
does.
A new aspect of me that I didn't even know that I had that within me.
It really, I feel like it is kind of important to at least try things that you might think weren't in your wheelhouse. Like the whole dance band thing has been that for me.
Ooh, yeah.
I'm not, like I said, I'm a freaking metalhead. I like unorthodox. I like a lot of unorthodox music. When left to my own devices, I tend to write kind of odd stuff, you know. Mm-hmm. But I got this opportunity to be in this corporate dance band, and was like kind of hemming and hawing about it. Like, I don't know if I want to do disco or Justin Timberlake songs, or we're doing Beyonce, we're doing. I recently started actually doing a little bit of lead vocals on like What I Like About You, the Romantics.
Nice.
Stuff like that, and it's like that's really not my kind of stuff. And my friend Carl, who I'm one of the highlights of my musical career is being on Carl King's album, because it's got Virgil Donati on it, it's got Mike Keneally, it's got Marco Miniman, Morgan Ogren, Dweezil Zappa, just all these players on it. And I was just like, it was music that he wrote. It was the most difficult stuff I've ever done. Very, very progressive, kind of orchestral, like orchestral prog almost.
Yeah.
And here's this same guy going, you really should take this dance band gig, because even just for the experience, you don't have to do it forever. If you do it for a while, just you're going to learn something from it. This is an experience that you need to have. And so I went ahead and said yes to the gig, and it's been one of the most fun gigs I've ever had in my life. I've been with him about 3.5 years now, and gotten just a ton of work with him. And
wow.
At every gig, I can't remember a single gig out of hundreds that I've had with them in the last 3.5 years. I can't think of a single instance where I was like driving home from the gig going, well, that sucked. The every freaking gig, I'm like on a high on the way home, because I just I'm coming from a place where I just watch people just losing their shit to what we do, and it's not my kind of music. I hate the song Footloose, but we were playing that in front of a packed audience once, just packed dance floor, and as soon as we went into that song, people lost their minds. Like I was watching people, just losing their shit on the dance floor, and I'm doing backup vocals on this song, and it choked me up so bad watching people having so much fun to what we were doing that I had to back off the mic for a bit to regain myself. I'm like, I got choked up by Footloose. Like, I hate that song.
That's a really beautiful thing that I've never talked with many people about that, about getting choked up on stage.
Yeah.
Because something is just so moving.
Oh, yeah.
I remember the first time, way back when I was like, I don't know, maybe 18, playing a Hendrix tune on stage. And again, just like what you're saying, that the crowd just went absolutely nuts. And I could feel it, coming up from my throat, like, whoa, man, this is like
yeah,
an amazing experience.
Man.
That's really beautiful. So good for you, man, for doing that.
I had a song the other night on the stream that it was a band I've never heard of, and it was I want to say it was like Czechoslovakian or it was some Eastern European, very it was mostly accordion and cello and a couple of female vocalists and a hand drummer, and it started just really low, just with the accordion, and it had a really long build up before any vocals started, and I was just improvising to the thing and just playing whatever came to mind. I literally just got lost in that song and got this just like this full body buzz going, where it feels like, we mentioned meditation. This is my kind of meditation, where I'm just listening and letting my muscle memory react in this format. And by the time I got to the end of the song, I was completely choked up. I couldn't even say anything at the end. All I could do was look at the camera and put my hand on my heart, and I was like, oh my God. Like it was amazing. I want to say the band was Daka Braka, a very, very strange name. Hold on, I saved the clip of the performance to the YouTube, so you can actually catch it over there.
Oh, cool.
If you want to go check it out. And
that reminds me. What do you think of? This is kind of an odd segue, but it just came to me, and I just wanted to hear your opinion. What do you think about the group Animals as Leaders?
Oh yeah, very very interested in that kind of stuff. The rhythmic style on that is so interesting to me that it's one of those things that it feels like it's right in my vein of how I play heavier music, but he's got such cool, precise parts with that, what he's doing, and I just love the feel of the whole thing. There hasn't really been much. Wave Drummer says Daka Braka is from Ukraine, so there we go.
Okay. Nice.
And please, everybody, check out the links that I've been putting in there. No, Breeze does not have a Twitch account. It was, that's something that I've been trying to kind of talk a lot of drummers into, but because it's been such a it's been such a positive experience. And one thing I have to say about drumming in the Twitch community and people that come to drum streams, it's overwhelmingly positive. Like, it's the opposite of YouTube, where people are going, oh, well, you're doing that heel up, it's supposed to be heel down, or you're not fast enough, or those those notes aren't clean. Everybody here is the opposite. Like, everybody here wants to see other people grow and thrive, and it's just been nothing but positivity. So even if you only come here to spectate and watch other musicians play, which is another beautiful thing, everybody does it their own way, and everybody's got a different thing going. It's really reminds me a lot of back in the MySpace days, when everybody was like, hey, I have my own webpage and I can put my music on it, or my pictures, and I can make the words sparkle if I want to, or whatever. That's kind of how it is here, except it's a little more advanced at this point, because you just have basically people running TV shows out of their spare room, which is what I'm doing here. Overwhelmingly positive. And if you do get to a point where you want to start doing performance on it, I believe people would eat up what you do on this format big time. It's,
man, thank you.
And it's it's such an easy way to just set up something and just broadcast it, and it's like, hey, this is my show. I'm going to do it my way, and it's really very, very free.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I will look into it. You've influenced me.
It's a lot of fun. This is what we're listening to here is great. I'm really enjoying it.
Oh, thanks.
This is the Parabri Zuck. And let's get that back up here. Hey, hold on.
Yeah, I have a duo that I've done with also with Steve Perakis, and then I have the other thing, which is Proxmith, and that's with my brother on guitar and Steve playing bass and other instruments. He did most of the recording.
I'm going to put both of those up there real quick. Texting myself across several devices to give you all. Yeah. It's fun stuff. Wait a second. All right, yeah, that one did a weird one.
Yeah, Christopher Garcia and the one of the other percussionists in Cosmic Vibrations was telling me about a new. Well, I don't think it's not new now, but it was new, like say 4 months ago, and I don't know what it is as far as the name of it, but it's a method of being able to play together from miles away without the latency. And he's doing that now. He's been able to do, because he plays with so many people. He has several projects together with Michael Manring and several other people. And so they've been doing rehearsals from quite a distance without latency, which is amazing to me. And
oh man, I would love that.
I'll find out what that is, and I'll send that on to you, because that would be fun.
Oh yeah.
If you and I do some things together, like maybe I could play marimba and you could be playing whatever instrument you want to play, and vice versa. We could do some double drumming things.
Oh man, that would be awesome. I remember a few years ago at NAMM there was, okay, we've worked through Parabrise Zuck. What would we like to put on now?
I would say Metrolotic.
Okay, we'll go there. Is there? Oh, you've got.
I should have sent you. I have my solo CD or solo project from 2004. I should have sent that because that actually has my some of my instruments on there. I have a couple of instruments that I designed and built, and anyway, that'll be something for the future.
There we go. One moment here. Hey now. All right, of course you're going to do that. Right. Go ahead. Do that. Oh, all right, I'm going to have to come back to that. Let me grab that real quick off of here because it will be easier. Sorry for the dead air, folks. Let's see. Where's my Bandcamp? There we are. Hey, where did it go? Get back. Oh, you bastard. Give it to me back.
Do you have vibes or marimba or anything like that in your studio?
I've got a little student xylophone and some toy xylophones, keyboards. I've got a hammer dulcimer that I need to get tuned up, and I would love to get some proper mallets from it. That was another thrift store find, if you can believe that. For $40, I walked away with a it looks like a handmade hammer dulcimer with I don't know, I forget which scale we had to figure out what it was, but the hammer dulcimer that I just need to find some nice hammers for. I should probably just order some up.
You could make some.
Yeah. I've seen some about that, but in all my spare time, it's just maybe not going to work out that way. But let's see. I've got a harmonium.
Oh, nice! My wife plays harmonium.
Several guitars, which I'm terrible at. I keep saying I'm going to get back to doing a lot more guitar again, but I just have not gotten around to it.
Well, me too. I have a lap steel that was an influence from a percussionist that I heard do a performance where he accompanied himself in lap steel, and he was playing bass drum, hi-hat, and auxiliary percussion along with it.
Nice. I've got a ton of just percussive devices as well, all sorts of stuff. But yeah, I just kind of got so hyper focused on drumming over the last, since 2013, I stopped watching football because I was disgusted with myself that I had not been dedicating more time to doing music. I was just basically working and playing a few gigs here and there, and then losing myself in football and video games on the weekends. And I'm watching all these amazing players on YouTube and going, oh, I'll never be able to do any of that. And then at one point I was like, well, why won't you be able to do that? It's because you're spending your few free days watching football and playing video games. So in 2013, I stopped watching football entirely and started putting way more time into drumming again. And that really gave me kind of a hyper focus on drumming. Mm-hmm. And that's when I started doing, collaborations online with musicians all over the world. We really started putting stuff together from, people from all over instead of just looking for people locally, and the variety of music that started coming in for me to do was dramatically increased. Like it went from, you know, all I could get was, you know, I'm playing in a blues rock band and, you know, maybe a country band or something. And then all of a sudden I'm doing avant-garde stuff that is like, what do you even call this? I have no idea what to call this, you know? So absolutely love that.
It reminds me of when I was living in Denmark, I met so many musicians and artists from all over the world. And the influence was just crazy.
Yeah.
Meeting people, percussionists from Turkey and Morocco and Egypt, and it just opened up these other worlds. That because at that point I really wasn't spending much time learning hand percussion, and I found that it was just this this common thing that I had. It was just an intuitive thing that felt so perfect. I mean, to pick up Doumbeks and Darabukas, frame drums, and and all the other ones, and to learn these other ways of, you know, to realize that all the families of tambourines, the panderos and the ricks and all of those other instruments. And that was another thing that just activated my sound imagination. That I, from that point, was trying to incorporate those kinds of sounds within the drum set. That's like, I always have a small 6-inch tambourine that I have mounted under my ride cymbal. And then, like I was saying, like adding the
tiny ones too,
that crazy little ocean drum, things like that. I love to get influences from other places like that, and then to find ways to incorporate it into what I like to do. It becomes those other sides of who we are.
Yeah, I got introduced to you know, starting to dabble in like Middle Eastern kind of rhythms and styles and instrumentation, thanks to Secret Chiefs 3, which is you know, Trey Spruance, who was the guitarist for Mr. Bungle. He and Trevor Dunn and Danny Heifetz did Secret Chiefs 3 at the same time that they were doing Mr. Bungle. It was kind of like their little side thing, and it was always very very odd and strange stuff, as you know, Mr. Bungle also was, of course. But
I love that stuff.
Later days, they started really getting into stuff that is just heavily influenced by more Eastern styles. And they had, you know, one of my favorite players is Pageman Karachian, who he's originally from Iran, and his overall style, even though he's got a very kind of punk and metal style, but it's infused with completely opposite rhythms than my blues and rock background, you know. And that's just been, you know, I've been kind of obsessed with those kinds of flavors in there, all those weird feels and interesting, you know, hand drum sounds integrated with drum kit. And I've really, you know, being exposed to music that is outside of my comfort zone is really pretty important, I think. Because we all tend to get in ruts, and that's, I mean, since I started doing the Twitch thing, that's really kept me out of a rut the entire time that I've been doing this, because there's no night that I'm like, all right, I'm going to do those same 10 songs again, or, you know. I had a playlist. Well, I still have it on here, but a playlist of like 100 songs that were all songs that I was very comfortable playing. They were a wide variance, but I got stuck doing that same list all the time. And now I come to the stream and it's like I have no idea what's coming. I literally have no idea what the next song is going to be, and it's, I would say maybe 10% of the time it's a song that I actually know that and can just jump in and go, okay, I know all these parts. The rest of them I'm having to read as I go, you know, not reading sheet music. I'm just reading the song as I go and just reacting, you know. And that's really kept me out of any kind of rut. It's been outstanding.
That's wonderful.
And I think it's important for really any. I'm trying to find the link to actually buy this, and for whatever reason it's not letting me do this. I think I might not even be logged in here. It's just very important to take yourself out of your comfort zone on a regular basis as an artist, I feel like.
Yep. I agree.
Even if you're just practicing. I mean, that's kind of what I view what I view these streams as is just it's a different kind of practice. It's I'm not working on, some specific technique and just drilling that. I'm practicing my ability to adapt and change and learn on the fly. It's been absolutely awesome.
It reminds me, do you play open style?
I've recently started working on that much more because I started working on that in the dance band because there's so many songs that just have a straightforward, and my left hand has for many years been able to do all kinds of things that my right hand can't, because at one point I broke my right wrist. And so I spent 6 weeks doing nothing but practicing with the left and playing darts with the left, eating with a fork with my left, everything I was doing with the left. And when I got my right hand back, all of a sudden ghost notes were just alive, and and I could do all these things that my right hand couldn't. So that's always been awesome, but my right hand could do things that my left couldn't. And if I tried to lead with the left and play open-handed, it would like tear apart what I was doing with my right foot, because that you train for so many years that, okay, right hand goes with right foot. So when I got in the dance band, and so many of those songs are 4 on the floor, straightforward, and so I started practicing the easier songs, leading with the left, and there's another drum streamer on here, Matt Scurfield, who plays predominantly open-handed, and he's just very, very comfortable with it. And watching him do it inspired me to work on it even more. So now I'm doing a lot of open-handed stuff, but I do crossover still predominantly, but it's getting more and more present, and my left just keeps getting more and more aware and able to do things that I couldn't do before. It's really fun. I'm really discovering all kinds of patterns that I couldn't do before because it was predicated on, doing it with the right. And so, opening that up has really changed things to make it so much more fluid to be able to just, hit something really quick and not even have to think about it and not have to think about how am I going to get back over here from over there. So, yeah.
That's a little bit like the Bill Bruford approach nowadays. Yeah. That last setup that he did before he said he retired.
Yeah. But I'm still bummed about that.
I've found that by doing the open-handed technique, it changes my brain.
Yeah.
Of the way it's another musical approach to the drum set for me.
Yeah, completely.
And one of the things that I've found to be helpful is because oftentimes I use 2 rides, one on my left, one on my right.
Yeah.
And I don't know, somebody I saw do this at one point. And so I started doing this, like the jazz, like up-tempo ride, but doing it with both hands simultaneously. And that the colors that come out of 2 rides like that at the same time. And then it's up to me if I want to come back to doing the accents with my left hand or my right hand. It's been a big opening for me musically on the drum set now. How do you
like cymbals? I mean, I like a wide variety, obviously, but
so do I.
There's so many, but like I do like. I really enjoy like a dry ride. I've got like 5 rides now, and they're each for very different purposes. But my favorite one is just dry enough, just rocking enough, just funky enough, and it's crashable. It's a very nice ride at low volumes. It's a nice ride at high volumes. It's not it's not what I would use for metal. I have one for that, but that metal one, I wouldn't want to crash that one. And, you know, and like crash cymbals, I typically like large and shimmery, like, yeah, I mean, I tend to not like small crash cymbals for whatever reason. Everybody's got their own. It's like, you know, some people like broccoli, some people don't, you know.
I know. Yeah. I know that some people have talked about that recently in some of those, the drum forums or the drum platforms on Facebook, saying things like, no, 16-inch, that's ridiculous to have a 16-inch crash. You know, how would you? But I like it all. And I also have several ride cymbals. I like the ones that are much more complex that I can use in whatever format it is.
Yeah.
And the thing that I've been finding more recently, especially in my practicing, is when I find a cymbal that has that wide complexity to it, that I can, depending on where I'm playing on the cymbal, it's amazing to me that the colors and how it can sing, or not. I like the drier cymbals in general, but I was deep into the Meinl Byzance series for a long time, and I've been wanting to get into Istanbuls, and so just over the last 6 months, I have now a whole set of Istanbuls, and it's once again has opened up a whole new way that I hear and approach what I do with even with the tuning on my drums. With the cymbals.
I've often equated it to driving different cars. Like if I change the kick drum, like, I mean, I've got a couple of 22s. My predominant one that I use live and for most recordings is a 20, and then I've got a 26. And each one of those is like a dramatically different experience. Like if I sit down, the 20 seems to be the most versatile. Like it works in the most situations, but sometimes, you know, getting out that 26-inch is like, oh yeah, this is for this song for sure, you know. and same thing with cymbals and snare drums, small toms versus large toms. Like all of those are like different driving experiences. Like when you're doing, you know, there are certain drum setups are more like a Ferrari, while other ones are these off-road vehicles, you know.
Yep.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, I have. Let's see, I have a 28-inch Ludwig.
Oh my!
I my 22 is not here. It's in a set that I have in Ohio. But I have a 20. I have an 18. I have a 16. And I love the 16 by 16 sonar. That thing is amazing with the right hit configuration. I can get punch, I can get depth, and all kinds of things out of that. And then I have a converted 14-inch Rototom bass drum, and thing, I played at I played the Knitting Factory. Back when the Knitting Factory was in LA, I don't know if you remember that time. That for a short period of time, Knitting Factory,
I saw,
you know, from New York, was actually in Hollywood.
Yeah, I saw a Stratosphere there one time, and that was if you're not familiar with them, that's another avenue that introduced me to more European music and stuff that I never would have been exposed to. But go on, please.
Well, yeah, so I was playing the gig, and at that point I was playing mostly percussion with David Arnett Cherry, Don Cherry's son. And this one night we played the gig, we were there for the gig, and we always had a drum set. It was the drum set player, I played percussion, but I always brought that little 14-inch with me.
Yeah. And
so the drummer couldn't make it for some reason. So they said, David told me, he says, okay, man, it's all on you. So the sound tech, he says, well, where's your bass drum? And I said, that's it. He says, okay. And I don't know what mic he put on that thing, but with the board that he had, he made that little 14-inch Rototom bass drum sound like Bonham. It was the craziest thing, you know, and here we're playing like mostly jazz and world music.
Yeah.
And he's, you know, every time I would hit that bass drum, it'd be like, boom. It was crazy. So I had to feather that little tiny thing so lightly for the gig, but it has a lot of potential. It's funny.
Man, I've never tried a roto for a kick. I've got I cut I drilled through the little 6-inch frame because I was never using that one, but I've got the 8, the 10, a 12, a 14, and a 16. I would love to try that with the 14 and the 16. That sounds very interesting.
Yeah, the old LP had the old Gayate pedal stand for cowbells and tambourines and wood blocks, things like it, temple blocks. And the old one had a large shaft on it, and you can actually put as large as a 16-inch Rototom you can mount onto the old pedal or the old mechanism that LP made, but they've changed the whole system. It's now with like an L arm, so you can't do that any longer.
Yeah, but, I have one of those with the L arm. But I'm constantly modifying hardware. I mean, I have several.
Oh yeah, me too.
I have several stands in here, like the one I made for my iPad over here. I mean, you can't see it, and neither can anybody else. But I made it out of the old that old aluminum pearl rack style. You know, the rectangular tubing. I've cut those down in several instances to make little percussion racks, or for this instance, I made a stand for the iPad with keyboard arms and that and a little drum clamp, and it just goes. Now I got a nice heavy duty little stand, and that does not move, which is great because I play a lot of synths and sample pads on it. So. Oh, that's cool. So it's good that it doesn't move.
You know, I have to jump over and get my charger for my iPad. I didn't bring that down with me.
No worries.
So let me jump over and get that.
All right,
I'll be back in.
I'll say hi to some of my followers here. We got Dabs and Drums just stopped in. He's one of my favorite drum streamers. And
I'll be right back.
You got it. Who all's still here, folks? We're interviewing my friend Breeze up in LA, and we're listening to a bunch of his projects in the background as we go, and I am sharing the links so that you can all check it out on your own time as well. Great, really cool stuff. Hey, what's that? Which one's that? Are you in on that one? Yep, indeed. Okay. This one. Let's pop that. Whoop. This is what you call low budget television production. But yeah, we're having some fun here. We are listening to. I'll buy it later. Come on, man. Oh man. I'm getting the guilt trip from Bandcamp, but it's not letting me get in there because trying to get over there with the PayPal, but I don't think I'm logged in. But yeah, Breeze picks really cool sounds and is doing a lot of very avant-garde stuff, jazzy, trippy. Like the tonality is awesome. Listen to that snare. Yeah. Oh, we got a new follower while we were doing all this. Noah got that heat. I think Noah was here yesterday, but didn't follow. So thanks for the follow, Noah, if you're still here. Quite often, I will be actually playing on the stream. Predominantly, we play on the stream. But, you know. Yeah, let's see what happened. Get back. Get in there. Come on. Alright. I'll have to figure that out later.
This is my grandfather clock.
Oh, wait a second. Here we go. Oh, nice. I see. Okay. Wow. Can we hear those? Yeah.
Has the cast iron,
Oh,
and
that's
then
beautiful.
it's beautiful like rosewood to it.
Wow.
But it's all of these lovely.
Oh man. All right, I'll be keeping my eye out for for old grandfather clocks now. I'm sure that'll make my wife happy. There's been so many times where I've like walked in the house with some new instrument and she's like, "Oh my god, now what?" But she was a partner in crime on the Piano Remnant, which really blew me away. Like I did not expect her to go along with that. I saw it, and the first thing out of my mouth was, "This thing's amazing." And she said, "Yeah, we got to get this." And I was like, wow, I married the right woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's my wife too.
Yeah.
She teaches dance and choreography. She's also a musician, and she teaches dance at Pasadena City College.
Oh, wow.
And they were throwing away a gong.
Oh, my God.
Old gong, and she saw it in the dumpster, and she grabbed it for me. So
that
yeah,
is awesome.
I had the right lady as well.
I cannot imagine being in a mindset where you're like, well, nobody's going to want this gong. Put it in the garbage. I would have lost my mind if I found a gong in the garbage.
Yeah, it's it's a beauty. It's an 18-inch gong. It's an old one, and it's been repaired at one point, but I think that it adds to the uniqueness of the gong itself.
Yeah. Well, I still have, I've got a lot of cymbals that I've cut down over the years because,
Oh, me too.
I don't really break cymbals anymore. I mean, unless I have like a little Wuhan Splash that I bought for $29 that was like 5 years ago. I bought the thing and it's just now starting to crack around the shoulder, but that's a tiny cymbal. But crashes and rides and hi-hats, I don't break those anymore, but back in the day, and I used to work at a studio down in San Diego, and people would break cymbals and leave them there all the time. So I would take them into the shop and shave them down, get great big metal shears and cut away the bad parts and just get it down to the bell. So I've got a whole lot of bells that I've cut down from larger cymbals and or stackers that I've made. I old splash cymbals and old China types that I've got that I'll just get a wild hair and go, well, let's try this one on that one and this one on this one, and what if we change the order? What if this one's on top, and what if we do that and throw a chain on it? And it's all fun.
Oh yeah, you and I are the same in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have some beautiful cup chimes that came from large cymbals that when I was working in a metal shop, and one of the guys there, his son was a metal drummer, and he would come in with a stack of cymbals like every couple of months, and he would say, "Okay, do what you want to do with them, but my son wants at least I get 2/3. He would get 1/3 of the ones that I would create for him."
Nice. And
it was cool because then I would go to gigs and check out what he was doing, and he did some of the wildest stuff with some of those cymbals. Adding that to a metal band was really cool.
Oh yeah.
Really interesting. Yeah.
There's a band called Coma Cluster Void that it's I would call it like avant metal. It's very very heavy stuff, but they've got one of the primary players plays recorder. And they've got a male vocalist and a female vocalist. The drummer has a very strange kind of his sound is like, you know, sometimes bricks in a dryer, you know, but he makes these rhythms, and he always has a literal car brake drum as part of his setup, and that's a very prominent part of his sound is that brake drum.
Yeah.
It's like it sounds like a dry fire alarm bell, you know?
Yeah.
And I love stuff like that. Unorthodox sounds in places where you're expecting something, you know, normal is, you know, that always gets my attention.
Yeah, same here. I have an array of Indian stainless steel bowls from about 7 inches and all the way up to about 18 inches, and playing them with mallets when they're upright in the way that they are normally as a bowl.
Yeah.
But then flipping them over and playing the opposite side, and you get these that like it's like that combination of the pitch up and the pitch down gongs.
Yeah. Oh man, I've got a one Tibetan singing bell that, and I love that thing, and it's just a small one. It's like I would say maybe 8 inches across, but just absolutely beautiful. I think, have I seen? Have you? You've been doing some sort of. I want to say that I saw a picture of you working with some singing bells, like some of those, or some of those singing bowls. Have you ever done that, or am I?
Oh yeah, especially when the sound healing.
Yeah.
Things that I was doing for a couple of spiritual centers, and I had just a myriad of gong and singing bowls and all sorts of different methods of bringing out sounds.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have, and at one point I was working with an organization that had a connection with someone in Seattle who he was like somebody who was able to get into some of the marketplaces in northern India, and was able to get some of the really beautiful Tibetan bowls. And so I did a lot of research on that whole system of the bowls and then the bell and the magnetic aspect of the bells and the bowls.
Yeah.
Where as you sound them, that you can actually use your mouth as the chamber if you get your mouth up to the edge of the bowl or the bell, and you can actually capture the sound as it comes into your mouth, and then you can create like a sort of a wah-wah effect from the overtones coming out of it, because they're so rich.
Kind of like the technique of cupping the ride cymbal and doing the, you know, giving it a little bit of a wah.
You actually do it with your mouth.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yep.
And
do you use violin bows on your cymbals and gongs?
I haven't really tried. I have one because I have a history of people giving me instruments as well. That's how I got my harmonium. I have a student cello. So I do have a bow, and I haven't really dove deep into that, but I've always thought about it. It's, you know, one of the many things on the laundry list of things I want to try out, and just haven't gotten around to.
Let me grab something. I want to show you this.
Okay, very good. We love talking about experimental techniques or just unorthodox techniques. How's everybody doing while he's getting whatever he's getting there?
Okay, so see this guy?
Yeah, that's particularly short one.
This bow was made for me by this. It's a guy in. It was one of the NAMM shows, and there was a guitarist there who played a custom fretless guitar that had, the neck was curved like a cello neck or any other neck like that. It was a string instrument.
Nice.
And he had this beautiful bow, and I asked him about it, and he said, "Oh yeah, well this guy and his family in Arkansas were making bows that the name of the company is Incredibo."
Yeah.
And so I wrote to him, and I had him make me a bow that is precisely 16 inches, so that it fits in my stick bag. And the thing is amazing.
What's
it's synthetic hair.
Yeah, and what's
on any cymbal or gong, and plus he said, "Oh, can I do something fun with the shaft?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." And so he made this like rainbow. As you can see, it changes with the light.
Yeah.
So it's really beautiful to have that little guy in the stick bag, and I can pull it up just like against the cymbal, or against coming across a wind gong or something like that.
Do you need to rosin it to get that to work well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's synthetic. It rosin a lot.
I think that's been one of my holdups. The only rosin that I have here at the house looks ancient, like it's. I think I probably just need to get a new one or something. It's like rock hard, and I don't know. So maybe that's how it's supposed to be, but I don't think it is.
If you take a drum key and if you scratch across the surface, you'll bring up all the dust from that rosin, and then you can just like bring it across, and you'll have everything you need.
All right, very good. Yeah, I'm definitely going to try that out. There's so many aspects of this. So many directions you can go with all of this. You said it was Incredibo?
Incredibo, yeah. Out of Arkansas.
There we go. Yep, there we go. Found that. We'll throw that up in there too. Nice.
So what about the hang drums? Have you done anything with those?
I would love to. They are just absolutely beautiful, and I'm constantly seeing ads for different ones. Like I saw recently one that was double-sided, which looked really fun. But yeah, that's another thing. It's one of those things that I've seen it at NAMM and gone, oh man, I would really like to have several of these. Someday, at some point.
Yeah.
I
missed my opportunity when I was at the NAMM show, and it was at least 12 years ago, and it was like the last day of NAMM, and I was going through, and I found the shop, Lark in the Morning.
Oh yes. I used to have the catalog from Lark in the Morning, and man, I used to just read through that thing for hours, and that's how I got the harmonium, actually, because I've been playing with Ron Blair from Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers for like the last 10 years. We've just done a lot of work together, and he's just this sweetest guy. and he's an instrument hoarder. Like his whole house is, the whole house is full of instruments. Like, I mean, just every time I go over there, he's like, he's excited to show me this or show me that. And I was telling him about that catalog, and I brought it over to him one day, and I was like, it's got everything in there. Look at this. There's harmoniums in here. And about a month later, I stopped by there, and he was like, hey, I got something for you. It's in the back, and we went back there, and he pulls out this thing wrapped up in a trash bag, and he opens it up, and it's a freaking harmonium. It's a beautiful harmonium and fully functional in a beautiful wood case, and yeah, it's like I traded him the Lark in the Morning catalog for a harmonium.
Well, I missed my opportunity on that day when I was there, because that last day, and it was like the last couple of hours that's still open, and they had a hang drum there that they wanted to say, we don't want to take this back. They were going to sell it for, it was like $450.
Oh man.
I didn't have the cash. I couldn't do it. Like, I just could not afford it. But it was like, I don't like to have many regrets, but man, that would have been so beautiful to have had that instrument.
It's that's the thing. If you can set aside something and go there with the intent of the final day, there's a lot of booths that don't want to be taking anything home.
Right.
They don't want to be bringing that back on the plane or whatever. And,
yeah.
Man, I got it.
I missed out on that, but it's many other things that I used to be that guy. I had probably upwards of 60, 70 instruments from all over the world, and I just had to like hone it down to the things that I really like, the things that really speak to me, and the things that I'm able to connect with.
Yeah. And
so I started selling a lot of things that I had. But the one thing that I've found is that, especially with the hand percussion, it's like I've realized that your hands can tell you a lot about what is the best instrument for you. Like udus were a particular one that it wasn't until I found the Brazilian udus made by a company called Bauer that I was able to really get the feel of what an udu could do under my own hand.
Yeah,
some of the other ones just didn't really fit for me.
Yeah. I've not really had the time to really play around with one and try and, get a feel for it. I've seen them and they're fascinating to me, but I have not had the time to really sit down or play around with them and really see what they'll do.
I'll send you the link of that company in Sweden, because those are easily incorporated into a drum set.
Yeah.
Setup, and they're small, but they get the same beautiful sound in this. Nice. And they're not delicate, but like the ceramic ones. That was another thing.
Yeah.
I broke one once in a recording session.
Oh no!
And it broke into about 20 or more pieces, and it took me 3 different sessions of gluing it back together. It sounded great when I was done, but wow, it was that was tough.
Oh, speaking of trash finds, my friend Dabs and Drums said he found a Moog Opus 3 in the trash in like 2003, and that he brought it home and it just needed about $5 in parts that he got off of eBay, and it's totally working. That's amazing.
I love it. That's great.
Yeah, I can't believe some of the things that people will throw away. Like it's like,
I know.
Do you have any idea what this is? I mean, that's part of why I hit these thrift stores. We're one of the thrift stores that I hit on the regular is right outside of Rancho Santa Fe, California, which is, it's a high dollar area, and periodically I'll go in there and I've gotten a couple of amplifiers that way. Like I bought a guitar amplifier. It was a Crate tube amp, which I looked at it and I'm thinking Crate, that's going to be crap, but I was curious because it had tubes in it and it looked like a nice amp. So I looked it up and there was, people were reviewing it and comparing it to like a Fender Twin and going, I sold my Fender Twin and kept this. And so I bought this amp for $50, a 50-watt tube amp, and
Oh man.
took it home, cleaned the pots on it, and plugged a guitar into it, and it was like I did one whap, and it practically blew my hair back, and like, holy crap, this thing's amazing. So I ended up selling that thing for like $200, because I think people in that area, they get new stuff and they're just like, I don't care what happens to this, just take it to the thrift store, and then they get rid of it, and I show up in the store and I'm like, hey, there's a perfectly good microphone right here, like whatever.
Yeah.
But people throw stuff out.
Guitarist friend of mine. Sorry.
No, go ahead. That was the end of my story.
Of a guitarist friend of mine, Bill Forth, who is amazing guitarist, but he's also a drummer, and he plays multi instruments. But he was telling me that Salvation Army is that he's been finding gongs.
Oh boy.
For like ridiculously low prices.
Really?
From the Salvation Army thrift stores.
Thrift stores are worth the time, man. If there's a few around here that I haven't really checked out yet, but I definitely want to go in and see what I can find, because you just never know, and people in thrift stores don't know. It's getting harder to find really good deals, because if it's anything that you can Google easily, then whoever's working the thrift store is going to go, well, we should put this price on it, But you can find some really cool stuff that way.
Yeah, for sure.
Man.
Yeah, Bill's been an amazing person for me to work with. I have a trio with him, and a bass player that has more effects than I've ever seen in my life with a bassist. Yeah. But Bill is somebody who he was in the grouping of a lot of the Crimson folks, and he was helping them doing some West Coast tours for a while. So it's interesting to work with him in the fact that well, first of all, he has crazy stories about all those folks.
Yeah.
But his style of playing has been so influenced. He was a member of the what is it called, the Crafty
League of Crafty Gentlemen.
Yeah. He was in one of those configurations. They used to tour Mexico often.
Yeah.
But his style of playing is so much of a cross between Adrian Belew and Robert Fripp.
Wow.
And the fact that he's a drummer and a bass player is like, that's even a better fit.
Yeah.
When he's in our trio situation.
Well, man, when we start having a little bit of a more normal climate, I've got to get up there and see you perform. This is I really, San Diego area doesn't seem to have a lot of that kind of an approach as far as what kind of music comes down there or what kind of music's being made down there. That's been one of my, I guess I can't call it really a complaint, but I've often had to drive to LA or Hollywood to see, the kinds of shows that I like to see, and a lot of the strange stuff. Like, a couple years ago after NAMM, we went to the Blue Whale, and I saw Zach Danziger's Edit Bunker, which was freaking incredible.
Oh yeah.
It was just, I was just blown away by that. The clips of that show are on YouTube, and I'm just like, every time I watch that, I'm just like blown away by, holy shit, I was there watching this live, and had no idea how they were accomplishing what they were doing. And for anybody,
was Tim LaFave on that gig?
I don't know. I don't know what the name of the bass player was. It was just Zach Danziger and a bass player, and and Zach had a bunch of. He's got those. They're very, very thin drum pads with 4 sections. So they're like they look like they're cut into a pie, and they're just 4 triggers each one. And he had put piezo triggers on each cymbal, and all of that he was using to trigger video samples, video and audio, using Ableton Live. He had this very convoluted setup, one device into the next, and the next device drove the next device. And he was running, they were improvising, improvising stuff, but he was directing the video and the audio clips that they were playing with using all these triggers. And it gave the appearance of these two guys having memorized these enormous pieces when they were just making shit up as they went, and it was such an amazing production because the whole thing's being projected behind them. They were set up kind of sideways. Zach's kit was kind of sideways, and the bass player was kind of sideways, and then the screen was in between the two of them.
Nice.
And man, was it cool. It was one of the most entertaining things that I've ever seen, and I've never seen, well, I can't say I've never seen anything like that down here. I would say Author and Punisher would be a very good example of something very avant. That's an electrical engineer who has made a bunch of his own instruments. They're basically... It's really difficult to describe what he does. I saw him open for Cattle Decapitation, which is an insanely heavy band, really, really fast drumming. And they before they got up, here comes all this weird looking equipment onto stage, and the guy that's like putting it together just looked like a roadie. And I'm like, I wonder what this is going to be. I have no idea what's about to happen. And then the guy gets up there, and the show started. And my feet did not move from where they were for the whole set. I was just like glued and mesmerized. We were talking about that full body buzz from playing something really meditative. I got that from watching this guy playing these machines that just, it was a very unique experience. And he had some video effects going on behind him. It was just like static and white noise looking video effects, but what he was doing with the equipment was just bizarre and mesmerizing. It sounded like robots and like a robotic human hybrid making just noise art. And he had made a microphone capsule. It was a microphone, but it's got 12 capsules in it. So it looks like this face shield. It's like a big screen that's just loaded with microphone capsules, and then that's on this big heavy duty neck that goes down, and he's using that, and he also had a collar on that had microphone capsules in the neck. So sometimes he would put his hand over his mouth and just be screaming into his own neck, and it was coming through these two microphone capsules. And just the inventiveness of this performer is just amazing. Highly recommend looking up Author and Punisher.
Oh yeah.
Or we saw Magma down here at Brick by Brick. That was an amazing show. But more often than not, if there's something, a little more jazzy or a little more avant-garde or just, experimental, I end up having to drive to Hollywood or LA to see it,
Yeah. And sadly, we lost the Blue Whale.
Yeah, I saw that.
Man, I mean, that was so sad for me. I was real honored that I've performed there many, many times with different groups. But that place was just incredible. I loved that place.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the only show I ever got to see there, and it was packed. And I got to go there with Morgan Ogren and Dave Elitch because we were all on that record that I was talking about earlier, and the place was packed. There was a line out the door, and we just walked right in like like I'm some big somebody or something. It was fun.
Yeah, I helped David Torn get a gig there, and it was a solo thing that he was doing, and I had the same kind of situation where since I got the gig for him, I was on the list to go in, but it was not a good night for him. He'd been ill.
Oh no.
and was having a lot of technical difficulties with his gear, but it was still so cool, to hear him up there live.
Wow. Yeah, that was a really cool venue.
Yeah. But I've heard that same thing you're talking about in San Diego, because I know, do you know Nathan Hubbard?
Yeah. I've been to see him a few times, and I've met up with him at where I had been following him through Facebook, and then I went for a Secret Chiefs 3 show at the Casbah, and he was there, so I ended up chatting with him for a while, and then saw he did an orchestral presentation at a place called Bread and Wine down in San Diego, and went and saw that, and that was a really cool.
But he's mentioned that as well, that it's not as often that he's able to get into some of the things that he really likes to do there in San Diego.
There's lots of,
I don't know why that is.
Lots of singer-songwriter, lots of blues, lots of reggae. That seems to be the general vibe, and metal scene is getting a little more exciting every year. But like Cattle Decapitation, I would say they're one of the top. They're a very well known, very heavy band, and they're from San Diego, so this is like their home base. So I've seen them like 3 times down there. Just amazing stuff. Their drummer is Dave McGraw, and he's this big muscle guy, super fast, just insanely fast, and very creative with the patterns. It's not just how fast can we play this, it's how fast can we play this really interesting pattern. That's cool. But they're just all very accomplished, and the lead singer he's almost terrifying to watch. He's so intense. I was really very, he's another, there's several like stage personas that I've watched from afar and gone, I'm staying away from that guy. That guy is scary as shit. And then you meet him in person, and it's like, wow, this guy is as mellow as they come. They're getting those demons out on stage, and you find a lot of that in metal.
Well, did you ever see Gwar?
No, but I would love to see Gwar.
Oh my God, that was one of the most bizarre things that I've ever seen was seeing Gwar live.
Somebody gave me one of their more recent songs on the stream one day, and I didn't realize it was them, and it was way more technical than I remembered them being. They were. I agree. They were. I remember them like in the early '90s and watching them and going, "Wow, that's a really fun show." But it was more like I felt like it was more about the costumes and the gimmick of it all. But then hearing what I've recently heard, it's like, holy shit, those guys, they're players. At this point, as long as they've been doing it, I would be surprised if they weren't players by now. But somebody gave me one of their songs, and I could not keep up. I was like, whoa. I was very impressed. Yeah. I'd love to see them again. Yeah. Well, not again. I haven't seen them yet, but I would love to see them. There's a lot of just great, interesting stuff out there. Are you familiar with Magma?
Yeah, a little bit. Because a good friend of mine, a good bass player friend of mine, he's turned me on to Magma and a lot of other groups in that same category. Yeah.
Yeah, I got to see them at Brick by Brick in San Diego, which typically does. I mean, they're like the metal venue down here, and so that's usually where I go to see anything that's coming in that's especially heavy. Like next month, I'm going to go see Igor, which is another. I don't know if you're familiar with them. Yeah. I'm super excited about that because that's really I can't think of another artist that's anything like them right now, or really ever. That actually.
Go ahead.
That whole circle of musicians is they do a few different projects. One of them is Igor. One of them is Worker, which is WHOUKR, and then the other one is Copramente, which is much more I would almost call it like contemporary classical, but also with elements of like modern drumming in it. But it's a whole circle of musicians that are just like they're doing high concept stuff, and it's actually getting out there now, which is really exciting. And Cherry, there are tickets still available to that because it just I just saw an ad for that very show today. So yeah, I'm going to be meeting one of my other favorite drum streamers is going to be going to that show too. He's up in I think he's closer to like Huntington Beach or something. So he's okay. Driving down for it too. So going to get to meet one of my online friends.
I used to live in Huntington Beach back in the 70s.
Yeah.
I got to see the old, what was it called? Gold Lion, I think. It's an old club that was in Huntington Beach. And I remember seeing Lee Michaels there.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know who that guy was.
The name's familiar.
He had a drummer, Corky, I can't remember his last name, but when I saw them there, and it was a duo, because Lee Michaels played keys and he did the bass as well as the keys, and the drummer had a drum set that was made with galvanized trash cans.
Oh wow!
And I mean, the bass drum was insane.
Insane in a good way.
In a good way. It was in a good way.
Very good. Nice. Man, yeah, I love seeing. There's just so much variety in what we do. I mean, there's so many different ways that you can approach drumming and, well, music creation in particular. But like we were talking about earlier, it's just the options are so wide open for drummers. I mean, you can go anywhere in between, just kick, snare, hat to you name it, like, who's the guy for, I think his name's Glenn Koch, Kotche.
Oh, yeah.
And he does a lot of, like, I've seen that, he would do special treatments to the heads, like actually, like riveting things through the heads and that sort of thing. And
he glued springs and all kinds of things to the snare head.
I saw at the last time I got to go to NAMM, there was a company that was making suction cup accessories for sticking to the heads. So there was one an egg shaker mounted on a suction cup that you could put that on the floor tom, and you'd hit the floor tom and you'd get it would only just barely deaden the head like a gel would, and you would get that shaking tone after that. Or they had the same thing with tambourine jingles on and putting it on the kick drum and that sort of thing. Really fun.
He had like a whole tray of things that he bought from Japan, and they were all these little boxes that had the sounds of crickets in them.
Yeah.
And
nice.
Was doing things with that. But did you ever see he did a commercial for Moen?
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Yeah. That's, I love seeing stuff like that. It's, what's the name of that band though that he's in?
That's, oh shoot.
It's like right on the,
with Niels Klein is playing guitar.
Yeah, they're really popular. Damn it.
Is it Weezer?
No. Oh, damn it.
I can't remember.
Shit. It'll come to me after the stream.
Yeah,
probably.
Me too. What about Nate Wood?
I know the name. I don't think I've seen what he's doing though. You haven't seen his
solo thing he does that calls Four?
No.
He plays active pickup bass with his left hand while he's playing drum set and keys with his right hand, and he sings.
Oh shit! Well, that's incredible. There was some other guy too that maybe it's no, I don't think it's the same guy because he's not playing bass. But I've seen there's one guy that's got a keyboard like right on his kit.
Oh yeah, that I know that guy. He also, in fact, he did a tune with Kneebody, that's the band that Nate Wood is in. I can't remember that guy's name, but yeah, he's on he's a track. He has a track on their last album they did.
Yeah. It seems like in recent years that there's been a lot more popularity to bands that do have really exceptional musicianship, like Snarky Puppy.
Oh man,
I've only recently been exposed to them again through the stream. Like people throw that stuff to me, and I'm like, I'm just trying to keep up and listening to what's going on and going, wow, man, I got to see this band live. I must see this. I would love to see that so bad.
I saw them at I forget the beautiful venue in downtown LA, and they were amazing. Always have incredible percussionists.
Yeah.
And that was an incredible show. And the main guy, I can't think of his name, the bass player who pretty much heads up the group. He
oh yeah, we looked it up the other day because somebody asked me, well, who's writing this? I'm like, somebody's in that, right? They're not just getting together and jamming that out.
No. And it's between the bass player and Corey, the keyboardist. Well, they're all writing now.
Michael League is the bass player, and he's the band leader.
They went through like this. It was a Moroccan thing that they did, and he proceeded to have the audience clapping these rhythms. They were like, it was like 7 against 4, or just, but it was like crazy the way that he did. And he said, "Come on," But it was cool. It was really cool.
Nice. Yeah, there's so much to discover.
That was amazing to see them live.
I bet. Man, what are some of your favorite shows that you've ever seen? What?
Oh my! An old band called Focus.
Yeah.
From I forget where they're from. The drummer Pierre from I think he's from Belgium. Oh, they're from Holland.
Yeah.
Focus was an amazing group to see live. Of course I saw Hendrix and Cream,
wow.
all those, because I was coming up in those days.
Yeah.
I saw Miles a couple of times. There he is right there.
Oh, man, yeah.
And Gentle Giant was amazing to see them live.
I'm sure.
But more recently, Kneebody is one that group I think is amazing. The things that they're doing.
Spelled like it sounds?
What was that? Sorry.
Is it spelled like it sounds? Kneebody?
Yes. But they have it as all one word.
Okay. Looking them up. What would you recommend as a starting point for them?
For Kneebody?
Yeah.
Oh. Any of their things are really amazing.
No pressure. I'll just pick their latest thing and add it to my library. I have some amount of guilt of taking advantage of like a streaming service like Apple Music, because I know it, like I'm paying $10 a month for Apple Music, and I'm sure the artists are not getting paid very much for me to have access to the.
I could go into some. The whole thing with the industry is.
Yeah, it's jacked. I mean, that's one of the things that why people are seeking venues like Twitch is it gives you another way to. I do see there are some players that are making a living doing this, but it requires a lot of followers. But there are a few drum streamers out there that have Well, I got raided last night by Mr. Greggles. He's got about 50,000 followers. So that's pretty substantial. But there's another guy out there, the 8-bit drummer, that has like 350,000 followers. So anytime he starts a stream, there's instantly 900 people watching. And,
oh yeah.
You know, a lot of those are subscribers, and you know, they're throwing in tips and bits, and you know, all that stuff monetizes the channel. So there are people out there that are doing that. They're just basically, you know, they get up in the morning, they mill about, and then they go, okay, gonna turn on the TV show and just go, you know.
You know, I think that a lot of that, at least from my perspective, because of the fact that of the recording that we did and that was released in 2020. And if anybody had done anything prior to 2019, I think they had a leg up on what was going on. Yeah. But we didn't have that, other than, you know, the people in the group that I'm with. I mean, they have like history of working with so many people through the ages, especially in jazz.
Yeah.
And that didn't even help us with this recording. And you know, I don't hold everything against the label, because everybody is trying to find a new way to make this happen.
Yeah.
So that's great that Twitch is making things happen, but it was just so sad for me to see that we had sales all over the globe. I mean, we had people in Italy and all over Europe and in Russia and in Japan and Canada.
Yeah.
They were buying our stuff, but because the label didn't have everything in the same, they couldn't use the same format.
Yeah.
For how they make their money. And so even though there was like easily close to $40,000 made, we still haven't seen a penny.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to say that against the label, because they're struggling desperately, but wow.
Yeah.
I can laugh about it, but I'm grateful to have had that release. But man,
yeah,
it's another world.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've been performing and working with bands and doing, I mean, primarily, you know, performance, you know, gigs, but a lot of recording gigs over, you know, a lot of different styles of music for a long time. I mean, I've been doing this for 35 years. I don't think I've ever made money off of recorded music. Like I pretty much, yeah. I mean, there's been a few instances where I've, you know, made a few dollars by selling some tracks on Bandcamp or that, but you know, you know, it's difficult, and I do see this as a viable option. I'm sure something's going to change, you know, just like MySpace turned into something and then was like,
right.
Now it's not the thing anymore. And then Facebook looked promising, and now it's looking like just this big mess. And, you know, you can't, I mean, you could do live music on there. Twitch is looking, you know, part of my motivation for doing this was also to get a setup that I could do a live band presentation in. Mm-hmm. So, you know, with a relatively low investment, you know, if you get yourself a few cameras, an easy little video switcher, and, you know, I've been collecting microphones and that for years, you know, so I've got, you know, I've got a couple of mixers, I've got all the microphones I could possibly need. So I could theoretically, I mean, if everybody was feeling comfortable about it and we had a good space with a good internet connection, I could bring the studio there and literally run a live show. And I do see there are bands that are just doing that. They have a good lockout somewhere. They've spent the time to set up, you know, a great look, and they've got great sound. They're all great players, and they'll just go on Twitch like a few times a week and do like a 3 or 4 hour show and do it their way, and people are throwing them money, they're throwing them subscriptions, they're engaging if they can't afford to subscribe or send bits or actual money that way. They're still there and engaging with the band, and they're getting a live show, which they're probably not getting in their hometown right now. So it's it does, the live streaming thing seems like a very viable way to go as far as just doing live performance and making it easy, because I think it's going to be difficult to get back to any kind of reasonable normal after all this, and a lot of people are going to be looking for live experience without leaving their house. So this is a viable way to do that. I'm still doing a lot of tuning and just trying to figure out how I'm doing this on my own. So every time's an experiment. I just kind of throw ideas at the wall and see what gets the best response.
Sure, why not? Yeah.
Yeah.
I have some friends in Zurich and also in Berlin, and they're doing some great things in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like you're saying, they have subscribers, and they're doing these beautiful live performances. The venues are cool, and that's a great way to experience something that's like innovative, creative, and it's getting attention. People are putting in money to keep that going, and I think that's beautiful.
Yeah, and you can get really creative with the just overall look of the thing, and how you approach it. I follow a few. I'm not going to say they're musicians; they're definitely performers. But I follow several different people on Twitch that are just like, they just one guy. I think he calls himself That Damn Juice, and he's got. It's like he's painted his entire apartment, green screen, and he's got a desk full of computers, and he'll just go on there, and it's his show. He's just doing whatever he wants, and the guy gets absolutely silly and goes nuts with the effects, with that green screen and with his video equipment, and it's highly entertaining. And it's just some guy in his living room. It looks like an apartment or maybe a small house, but he's really just, you can tell he's having fun, but it's genuinely fun to watch this guy just goof around with his video effects, and he's this obnoxious dancer. He just gets silly with it, and it's fun. It's fun. Every one of these channels is a different experience, and that's what's most exciting about it for me is everybody's got their own video DNA basically when they're doing this. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Well, we're coming up on 3 hours here. I don't want to keep you all night. I could talk music stuff endlessly, but
I was just thinking I probably should jump off. I'm supposed to be I'm on file for jury duty, so I have to also call in on that. And
fun.
I've got a couple of things I need to get together before it gets too further into the night. But this has been really wonderful. I can't thank you enough. I'm stoked that you came over here to do this with me, and nobody would know it, but we tried to do this last week, and I couldn't get my adapters to work at all, so I had to push the whole thing ahead. But I seem to have figured out the setup, and I'm really happy with how this worked out. So, Well, maybe we can do this again sometime and have, talk about whatever again. Really is kind of a loose format, so I enjoy the time. And I've likewise
sincerely enjoyed getting to know more about you and to just share philosophies and it's freaking great.
Yeah. Well,
do you have
perhaps this has been wonderful, and now I'm inspired for Twitch, so look out.
It's a lot of fun, man. Do you perhaps have any like a central like website for to kind of direct to all of your projects? That's something I need to do myself as well.
No, I don't. I had a website, and I won't bore you with the story about why it went down. It's not active right now, so I'm only active through Instagram and through Facebook.
That was my next question. What's the Instagram again? We'll share that.
Instagram is Breeze Muse, and then 888.
How am I not already following that? Ah, there we go. Lots of your painting there too. Wonderful. Excellent. Okay.
Yeah, and some of that the group that I was telling you about, the one that I'll call the ECM-ish group. We've been posting some things on the Instagram page. So yeah.
Nice.
Well, thanks everybody who's and if anybody is still hanging in there, I appreciate everybody being there and listening to all of this. It's been fun.
We'll be putting this on the YouTube, and it'll be visible here on my page as well shortly after we get off here. I'm just sharing your Instagram there so that people can follow. Hey, come on now. This is what happens when you're working in several windows and several devices. All right. Well, most excellent. I'm stoked that you took the time to come over here and talk, and we'll do it again.
My pleasure, and can't wait for the time that we get to hang out together in the same place.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it'll be soon, hopefully. We can get everything under control.
Hope for that.
Yeah. Well, all right. Good night, everybody. We're gonna sign off. Instead of rating somebody tonight, I'm just gonna close it down and then get back to some of the projects that I'm working on as well. And very good. Thank you, Breeze.
Take good care.
You too. We'll see you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Are getting that's the shutdown part of the show. All right. Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Who's still here? Somebody still here? Just Bunny and Nightbot and Commander Root and Cyber Rider. Hey, we got a few people here. All right, but I got to sign off. And I'll be back on Thursday. Thanks for joining.